All right, let me record. We're good.
Welcome everybody and happy Friday. In this edition of the Marketing Tech Training, we're going to go over how to get started with Moxi. Again, Moxi works for those of you who have tried it or have attempted it or know you should have been using it. This is a great time to really get invested and understand the ins and outs. Pretty user-friendly, but the best way to practice is to, one, learn from this class, and then two, just try it. Get in there, try it, practice it. Send Joe or I a dynamic presentation. We're going to get to that as well. But really cool to use with your buyers and your sellers. You can set up some fun buyer tours that are graphically pleasing, and clients can engage with you via the presentation. So cool, real differentiator for us. Only a handful of brokerages are using this. So think about going into a listing presentation, and instead of having 8-point font that printouts from the MLS where 90% of the information is not what you need, think about going in with these beautiful presentations and really setting yourself apart and blowing them away from day one. So we're excited to share this with you, and take it away, Joe, and we're going to monitor that chat. So feel free to open that up and send us questions along the way, and enjoy.
Yeah, so thanks, Jamie. This is going to be a shorter class than most because we're learning that we want to concentrate more on just some very specific skill sets during these classes instead of going for sort of long drawn out explanations. That way they're easy to watch again. And if you forget a specific part, you don't have to scroll through a 45-minute training class to try to find that one section on how to, refine your search or something like that. And so if you've taken the beginning Moxi class before, hopefully this is all a repeat for you. And if you haven't taken a beginning Moxi class before, welcome. And as Jimmy mentioned, this is one of the platforms that we're using. There's only one other brokerage in the Valley that we know that uses Moxi Present, and it's Windermere, just in case you were ever wondered. So this should give you a pretty good leg up when you go in and you do some listing presentations. So let me share my screen, and we're going to start from the beginning, which is a very good place.
Where would we start, Joe? Wherever could we start?
Jamie, I'm so glad you asked me that question, because within our brokerage, we happen to be in love with the idea of the intranet. And so when all else fails, remember to type in INTRA intranet.bhhsutah.com, and you'll be taken to this lovely platform where we all good things start at the intranet, as you well know. Over here on the left-hand side on our vertical menu here, we've allowed a couple of really powerful links. And the link that we're going to be covering today is this one right here that says Moxi Present Login. Now, if you're like me and your brain works in memorizing URLs, you just type in present.bhhsutah.com, and that will also get you to the same spot. Now, if you happen to be on this call and you don't have a Moxi login, just go ahead and send me an email. I'll set you up right after this call. The way that that works is that you'll get an email from the Moxi team, and it will say, welcome, and we're gonna go ahead and set up your Present profile. Your Moxi Present profile would be a password that you choose, and then you'll be able to go from there. When you get that email, or when we set you up, remember to use the email that is attached to your MLS profile. So that's how Moxi works. It's connected to all three MLSs that we use. And so if you're going to log into Moxi, make sure that you're using the email that you have as your identifier on your agent profile on the MLS. Otherwise, it won't know who you are. So when you first log into Moxi Present, you're going to come to the dashboard. Now, if you've never logged in before, you're going to have two black squares, one of which will say the default seller presentation. The other one will be a listing presentation. The other one will be a default buyer presentation. As you might believe, Jamie and I have done one or two of these over the past couple of years. And so these are examples of other ones that I've done on my dashboard. The very first thing you need to understand about Moxi, as with most of the platforms that we use here at Utah Properties, is please use the Chrome browser. Now, many of you, if you're a Windows machine person, the default browser on your machine is going to be the new Internet Explorer or the new Explorer 10 or whatever the current browser is. And if you're a Mac user, it's going to be Safari. The product that we're about to show you is fully mobile enabled, meaning you can literally sit in a driveway 20 minutes before a listing presentation and build one of these things on your phone. However, if you haven't downloaded the Chrome browser on your iPhone or Android, go ahead and do that. Almost 100% of the time, so 99.98% of the time, when somebody calls me and says the search isn't working, or I can't pull up my photos, or any of the other things that might happen, it's because they're using either Safari or Internet Explorer and they're not using Chrome. The reason for that is that Chrome is a browser that basically understands and reads all languages. And as we're turning the corner on 20 years of pretty heavy internet use across the world here, there are a lot of websites out there that need to speak a certain language. And browsers like Safari, Internet Explorer have decided to not really render those languages in the way that they were built. And that's why we always say use Chrome with Marketing Resource, use Chrome with the intranet, use Chrome with Moxi, so on and so forth. So rule number one, make sure you're using Chrome. And when you log in, the first thing we're going to cover is how to make sure that your profile picture shows up. So when you build your first presentation, your happy smiling face is right there. You can also go back and look at our marketing tech class from 2 weeks ago, where we went through how to update all the profiles, and take a look at that as well. But in the upper right-hand corner right here, if you haven't updated your photo, it'll just be an initial. It's probably going to be the initial of your first name. So you're going to hit the little down arrow, and you're going to come down to where it says My Account. And then you're going to click on My Account, and it's going to open a new tab for you where you can edit the data and the photo that you are presenting as part of your Moxi presentations. Now, in order to change your photo, there's a little camera icon on the top of your photo. Again, if this is just going to say J for you, you're going to go ahead and click Photo, and it's going to upload. It's going to allow you to upload a new image. So just like you've done on any other website, you're going to click on Upload New, and it's going to say go find the file that you want. So in this case, we'll just go click File, and then you can go down to Photos or wherever you're going to keep that on your computer, and then you can just go ahead and upload whatever image that you want to use. I've been using the Oh Yeah guy for a while, so it's time to update my photo. So I'm going to put in what I look like in the morning. So we'll go ahead and upload this new photo, and you can see it's really simple to just change your image. And so now Yoda Hulk is my new image here on the photo. Now, if you look at all this information, your personal information, this is all just pulling straight from the MLS. So it's going to tell you what your email address is. Don't worry about your internal agent ID. That's not your MLS ID. That's your ID within the Moxi system, so don't worry about that. But I do want you to go to this middle section where you click on Contact Info, because this is info that you can change. For example, it's going to pull your default office phone number from the MLS. So if you haven't updated your MLS ID to represent your cell phone or your work phone that forwards to your cell phone, it's just going to say the main office number. So if you're on the Wasatch back, that'll probably be the 7171 number, and if you're on the Wasatch front, that's probably going to be the 0400 number. So you might want to say, you know, if I send this presentation to somebody, I want them to actually call me. And the way that you change that is by going over here to the right-hand side where you see this blue pencil. Now, I've had agents call me sometimes. They're saying, I'm trying to update my contact information, it's not working. And we go through, we do a little Zoom share where we kind of walk them through it. And sure enough, they're not using Chrome. So the little pencil doesn't work, right? So that's an example of what can happen if you're not using the Chrome browser. So I'm going to click on that pencil, and it's going to take me to the screen where I can actually edit my information. So you notice that it jumped back over here to my personal info, and then we're going to go to contact info, and I can change any one of these things. So I can put in whatever email address that I want. I can also change my direct phone or my mobile phone, and I can just input those just like this, you know, where I type in my phone number, 5642, I think that's my phone number, and we go ahead and put that in there. Again, mobile phone, alternate phone, any of those kinds of things you can go ahead and add at that point. And then over here on the left, remember 2 weeks ago when Jamie taught us all to make sure that we write our bios and keep them on a Word doc or a Google doc so we don't have to continually retype all of our bio information. If you've already written your bio someplace else, you can simply cut from your Word doc and paste it straight into here, right? So on this title, this is sort of the example. It's a little introduction to you and to yourself. We'd recommend not making this like your full bio because, you know, people don't want to do that, but this is where you can put in some really kind of things that are pseudo interesting. So you can see in here that I've described myself to a T. I'm loud, usually hungry, and at times Joe those little Easter eggs from Cadbury. Not the ones with the cream inside. Those are disgusting. I'm talking about those solid chocolate ones with the shell on the outside. They're like giant pregnant M&Ms. Yeah, those are destructive for my diet. Then you come down in here, you put in a couple of this information about yourself. You can see I've just kept it really small. You can put in some bullet points. You can put in links, you know, whatever else you might. This might be a good spot for you to put the link in for your mobile app or something like that, so that while they're going through the CMA presentation, you can connect to them and do whatever else that you want. Your website, all of you on this call have your own website. So it's usually your first and last name .bhhsutah.com. So make sure that you put in your personal website there, so that if they want to go search for property, they're searching within your garden that we've tilled and cultivated for you. And then, of course, there's all these spots for social media, which I know that every single one of you have been updating, because we've been talking about that for the last 3 months. So you can go ahead and put all that information in there. And then this is the one part of Moxi where you actually have to go up and press the save button, okay? The rest of the presentation platform allows you to just kind of walk away and start wherever you left off. But in this case, you're actually going to have to press that save button. So since I updated my contact info, and then I'll put something here, let's change the title. So I could put in something cool like I love Will Cooper. I use his name wherever I can, gets me free stuff. And then I go ahead and hit the save button, and now I've updated my profile. So that's step one. You're using Chrome, and then once you log into Moxi for the first time, you're going to go up to the upper right-hand corner, hit the down arrow, you're going to go to My Account, and you're going to update your photo and all of your personal information. So then once you've done that, you can simply hit this little button over here on the left-hand side that says Present. And this is kind of the Dorothy click your heels 3 times a way to get back to the dashboard. So if you click on that, no matter where you are in the product, you can click on that and go back, and you'll be back to your dashboard, okay? So that's your first step, making sure that your contact information and your photo is what you want it to be, okay? So we have that set up there. Now, navigating your eyes around this user interface, you've got my presentations, which are the ones that you created, and then you've got broker presentations, which are all templates, okay? So we're gonna just stay right here on the my presentation list, and we're gonna create a brand new listing presentation. Now, Moxi is very, very flexible. Those of you that took the how to do a virtual open house using Moxi class know that there are multiple ways you can do that. They have listing presentations, they have buyer tours now, complete with maps and directions. They also have virtual open house templates. They have a whole bunch of different things that you can do. But for this class, we're just going to talk about a straight listing presentation. So I'm going to go over here and create new, okay? So I click on my create new button, and it asks me, what presentation are you trying to build? And you can see there's 4 different ones here, and we're going to select seller. Now, when Jamie and I first launched this platform back in 2018, what we decided to do was build a template that included all the different types of reports and all the different types of pages that you can have in a presentation, with the intent that you will take those and say, I don't like this, I don't like that, and I'm going to winnow that down so that the presentation fits your style and your personality. So we're going to select seller presentation, which is going to give us all the different types of pages that we can use in a seller presentation, even if we end up not using some or the majority of those templates, okay? So I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna hit the word continue, and then Moxi's gonna start saying, what template do you wanna use? So by default, this top one right here is gonna say default seller, and then you see the virtual open house template, and you can see here that I have multiple templates that I've built that suit my training style. So at the end of this class, I'm going to show you how to save the one that you, after you practice, I'm going to show you how to save the one that you like as your own template, so that going forward, you can simply scroll down to your templates and pick the template that you like to use when you give one of these listing presentations. But for now, we're going to leave it on default because that's the one that we want to see. And then we're going to come down here, we're going to hit continue. Now, the first thing it asks you for is, who is this presentation for? So I strongly recommend that the first couple that you're going to do are for yourself, right? And so for this case, we're just going to say for the marketing and tech class. Now, you might as well put in the first and last names of the people you're presenting to. You could put in the name of your significant other and then say, guess what? This weekend, you're going to listen to me give a Moxi presentation 10 times, so I can get that down. Or if you're doing this for real, you're going to go ahead and put in like Kent Roop or Linda Deem or whatever that you're going to go ahead and talk to. Down here below, it's going to ask you, what MLS are you going to ask Moxi to pull this data from? Now, all of you have a default MLS as part of your Moxi profiles when I set them up. So for Linda and for Rachel down in Moab, it should start with the Utah real estate. For anyone that's down in the St. George, it should say the Washington County. If you're an agent that primarily services the Wasatch Back, it's going to start with Park City. But if you're on both, because many of you are on both, or some of you are on all three, and you want to pull data from particular MLSs, this is where you can do that in your dropdown. If you do not see the MLSs that you belong to as part of your dropdown menu, send me an email and I'll make sure that I connect all the MLSs that you're a member of so that you have that option. So the first question that we get is, can you take data from the Washington County MLS and also the Utah real estate MLS? The answer is no. You cannot blend listings from two different MLSs inside of Moxi. That is something that we've been working for multiple years on to try to let the MLSs agree so that you can pull data from multiple MLSs in a single presentation. But as of yet, the MLS covenants don't allow us to blend that data. So you're going to have to pick a single MLS. And if you want to do two different Moxi presentations from two different MLSs, you'll have to do that two different times.
Yeah,
so we'll go ahead.
It's
go ahead,
interesting
Jane.
that those MLSs don't want to play fair in the sandbox.
I know, it's so funny because it's not like it's some secret, right? It's just
well, and this is another edition of This Isn't Jamie and Joe's fault. This is the MLS. We don't make the rules, we just play by them.
Exactly. That's a huge point. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick Utah real estate here as our one for this demo. And then I'm going to hit the button that says create. Now, at this point in time, Moxi's going to start spinning, okay? And it's going to take you into what I call the car wash menu, okay? Now, the car wash menu is this horizontal menu across the top of your screen. So much like when you go to one of those automatic car washes and they wave you in and they put you on that little track and they tell you, go put yourself in neutral and we're going to put you through to the end, that's exactly how you're going to build these first couple of presentations. You're going to start with the subject property. You're going to go to search, then you're going to go to listings, and then you're going to do your estimates, and then you're going to finish up by ordering the pages that you want to give in the order that you want to give them. So we start with the subject property. So if you're going in for a listing presentation and that listing has been on the MLS in the past 15 years, you can actually use the MLS number of that particular listing. If you don't have an MLS listing number, if it's new construction, don't worry about it. You can still go ahead and put all that information in on these boxes as they go below. So just to start here, does anybody have an active listing on the Wasatch Front that they have an MLS number memorized that they want to throw out there? Anybody? Anybody? All right. Okay, Jennifer, let's go. Jennifer, what's your MLS number? Oh, I missed it. Jennifer, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Maybe type it in on the chat. You just type in an MLS number if you want. And we'll go ahead and do that. The reason that I want to show you this particular feature is I want to show you how you can actually ask the MLS to pull all of the data into Moxi so you don't have to do any double entry if you want. And the other thing that we could do is we could just go to, there we go. Thanks, Jennifer. And oh, there you go. Now I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Huh.
Probably just had to wiggle your cord, right? Just wiggle the cord. All right. So it's 12001861. And then once I have that MLS information in there, I'm just going to go over here to this button that says copy, and it's going to grab that MLS number. Oh, that doesn't like that one on the Wasatch Front. Did I get that right? 12001861. 12001861. All right. Am I missing a number, Jennifer? Or is that one just on Wasatch Back? Go to here. I'll just grab one really quick. We'll edit this all out in post. That's what they say when they make fancy videos. Just grab one from John. There's John Bach. My friend Johnny will go down here and we'll grab his listing here. This is perfect, downtown Salt Lake. So we'll go in here and grab that MLS number. So it's 1676294. So again, you can just copy paste. You don't have to worry about, going through any major details. So I'm just going to go here and put that information in. I'm going to hit copy. You see a little blue line that come up now? So that's going to the MLS, and it's actually pulling all the photos. It's pulling all the public remarks. It's pulling bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. It's pulling everything that the MLS has that's active there. So again, even if it's not your listing, so you're going to a listing presentation, you haven't secured the listing yet, you can still put in the address and see if it has an MLS number. You can plug that MLS number in, even if the last time it was sold was 10 years ago, and it'll pull all the information in there. Now, talking to Chrissy Robinson, our principal broker, because this is in a CMA format, you're allowed to use all these photos as long as you're not doing a public marketing or ad-based campaign on all this stuff. So don't worry about the fact that they're not your photos. They belong to another brokerage. None of that matters in the world of a CMA. So in this case, it pulls up the first photo on the MLS. You can see it's a nice shot of the front, nice red porch there. And you go, that doesn't really show what I want to talk about this house or how I would prefer to list that house. So I'm actually going to go here to the MLS button, and it's going to pull for me all the photos that are currently on the MLS for this particular property. So let's say that what we really want to do is we really want to show this nice open airy room, and so we're going to change that and select that. So our hero image is going to change because nothing says, hey, you want to buy this house like that all white kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there, and you can see that you can change that just by clicking that MLS button. Now, what if you get an MLS or it's new construction and there are no photos yet? Well, what I would do if I were you is I would drive by that property a day before or even the day of and whip out your camera and just take a picture from the sidewalk, right? Let them know that you're engaged and you're interested in making this as interactive and a cool presentation as possible. And if you want to do that, you just hit the browse button, and then that pulls down the menu so that you can go ahead and find that photo on your computer and then go ahead and load that up there. So we'll go ahead and cancel out of there. Now, when you see, once you have the address, 275 East Downington Avenue, it puts in the city and it automatically maps it for you. Now, the reason we want to check that map is that this is how it's going to start to pull comps automatically for you, okay? So it tells you what area it is. You can see the MLS area, all this other information that's over here, building name, school district, all that kind of stuff is in there. Now, when you scroll down on this subject property page, one of the big things you want to do here is make sure that this information is still relevant. Let's say they added a house, they added a bathroom, or they bought the parcel behind them, or whatever it happens to be. Make sure that all this information is in there. So you can see the square footage is in here, living area square foot. So that's like if they have a finished basement, total square footage versus living area square footage. And the other thing is it says lot size. Now, this lot size is for some reason is on the MLS is converted to square foot. Nobody ever wants square foot on their acreage. So just go ahead and hit that button that says how big the acre is. And then if you want to, you can fill in all the rest of this information. It's not required for you to build a nice listing presentation. But if you want to, you can go ahead and do that. On the features, you can enter any of the features that you want here. And now down here at the bottom, it grabs the public remarks for you and puts them together. Now here's sales tip 101. Take the public remarks, and if you want to, just get rid of them, right? Because we don't necessarily care what the previous agent thinks about this listing. We care about what you think about this listing. And so in order to connect a personal relationship with the people that are on this house that will soon hopefully be your clients, this is where you should take the time to put in a few remarks of your own. So the more you know the area, the more you know what this house is all about, this is the time to take to go ahead and put some of those things in. Like, for example, let's say that you sold a house around the corner. I sold a house around the corner from here, and I love the area. Or, you have great curb appeal, a couple of comments about that. I don't care if it's like 16 years ago, one of your kids played soccer at the park around the corner. Find a way to connect to that house personally, right? And even if you have nothing to do with the area, you don't really know the house, the area anymore, at least say something about the house that is your observation, right? So you're connecting your observations about your seller's house in these public remarks. And the reason why you want to do that up front is that when you build your presentation, this is the first page they're going to see. So make sure that you can clearly say, I know something about your home. You're going to want to pay attention and do business with me. And then down here below, it says price and sale. This is an active listing. It's actually pending right now. If you've got a sale that's just gone off market or it's just gone active, you can change the status on any one of those things. So you just hit that drop down menu and you can change the status. And this one, it's 415, hasn't sold yet, which actually works well because it's going to go pull comps, and we want all the other actives and pendings and solds in the areas. Tells you the days on market and the dates sold. So you can change that if you need to, but if you're going to use, in most cases, you're going to have a listing that's not active. That's why you're there, is to put it on the MLS. But you can change any of those things right there. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have continue, all right? So by pressing continue, I now have moved from my subject property part of my car wash menu to the search part of my car wash menu. See how those arrows just move in this direction? So by default, the program is going to go out and start looking within a 2-mile radius of your subject property and just grab everything that's out there. So this is a hot market. It's downtown. There's 111 listings that match the basic setup of this particular property, 275 East Downing. Now, we love digital listing presentations because you can do more than just 2 or 3 different hot sheets for comps. But at the same time, this is where your experience really starts to dial in. You probably have an idea when you're going to that listing presentation what you're going to list that home for. And so you don't want to put in any red herrings in the listing to sort of explain, well, yeah, this house, we're probably going to list at 415. So I'm going to put this one in at 464. And then the owner's thinking, woohoo, we're going to be at 464, when you're going to tell them at the end of the presentation, you're going to list for 415. So be careful about what you're picking here in terms of what you're going to show your potential clients. So we put in all that information, it pulled from the MLS. So let's go see what the computer program is using as a set of filters to get us some comps. So the first cut is price, right? Right now, it's probably not got any price waving in there, but you know you're not going to get more than, let's say, 435 for this home. There's just no way it's going to appraise for more than that. So you might want to say the maximum price we're going to look at is 435,000, and we're going to say the minimum price we're going to work at is, let's say, 389. So we'll put that price filter in there, and immediately watch what's going to change in our 111 listings. I'm going to click apply, and it's going to go do its work. Instead of having 111, now we're down to 28. So our first filter just cut out those other 70 some odd listings, and now we're focusing simply on the 28 that we have in front of us. So we have some pendings, we've got a lot of solds, we've got a couple actives, we've got a lot to work with here. And you can see as you scroll through, these are all the different areas that these listings are in. So this is our subject property as indicated by the star, and all these others around here. We've got an active just a couple blocks away at 399. We've got a bunch of solds, which is good for us, so we can put them all around in here, and you can go ahead and do that. Now, on the advanced case of Moxi, we teach how you can actually draw radiuses, and you can draw, for example, you can isolate just a city block, or you can isolate other areas by using the draw tool. So go ahead and play with that if you choose to, but go ahead and look at the advanced class if you want more information on that one. So we have our price filter, we have our beds and bath filter. It takes the information on the MLS and it does 1 bedroom down and 1 bedroom up. So this is a 4-bedroom house according to the MLS. So it's looking at houses that have 3 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms. And then it does the same thing on baths. So it goes down to 1 and it goes up to 3. Let's say that you know that they're adding another bathroom or something else like that. You can edit those filters here. But this is a pretty good cut from the program, so we're going to leave it as it is. And then last little box over here on the right is all the filters about the types of features that that particular property has. Keep in mind, the more of these you select, the more restrictive Moxi is going to be in giving you what it thinks are comps. So if you go in there and you say, I want single family and condos, right, and townhouses, okay? Because in this neighborhood, maybe all those things are there. You can select all 3 types of those properties. And then down here in the property information, you can change things like square footage, change things like lot acreage, year built, all that other kind of stuff. And so when you get in here, you can see this is all the statuses it's looking for. Changed in the last 90 days. That's a pretty good indicator for our market around now. But 90 days ago, I don't know if you realized, but we weren't in the Corona world 90 days ago. I guess we were just getting there 90 days ago, right? So you might want to change that 90 days on the Wasatch back and down in Moab. You might want to stretch that out a little bit because properties of a higher price point sometimes are on the market a little bit longer. So you can go ahead and change how long the properties it's looking at. By default, it starts at 90 days, but you want to say, let's go back to 180. Let's see a little bit more that we can do there. You can include short sales or bank owns if you want. Not a lot of those in this day and age, but that's how you do that. and then you come down in here and you hit apply. And what that's going to do is it's going to change our 28 listings up to 35, because now it's looking at condos and townhomes as also possible comps for this situation. So once I have this list down, I can go through and I can say 429 right here, that's right around the corner. I want to add that as one of my potential comps. So all I do is I take my mouse and I hover over that particular listing. You see how the picture changed to a plus sign? Now I'm going to do is hit plus. So look what happened on our third step of our car wash menu. Now I have one listing in the hopper, okay? So I'm going to go down here. This is also a pretty decent comp. I'm going to hit plus on that. So see how my listings now changed to 2. And then I can come down here and I could say, all right, so now I've got 2 pendings, or sorry, 2 solds and 1 pending. Let's go down and get an active one. So here's an active one. We're going to click that. And then I'm going through, and the entire time in my head, I'm thinking about the narrative that I'm going to explain to the owners of the home, right? On why I'm going to price this property the way I'm going to price it. Here's another one at 400. Here's another one at 419. And then if you want to just kind of say, you know what, just show me the actives right now. You can sort, right here it says sort by distance. You can change that and say, no, just show me any one of these other things, like for example, status. So now it's going to sort from active to sold. So I'm going to go in there, I'm going to grab that one, which is exactly the same price, by the way, and that one, which is also exactly the same price. So you can see I have 7 listings in the hopper. Now, if you're doing a listing presentation old school, you'd be sitting at a piece of, at a table, you'd be pulling out MLS comp sheets, right? And you'd be laying them on the table like a piece of paper. The cool part about Moxi is that this is all digital, which means you can probably bring more comps and not overwhelm your seller, right? Because it's all going to lay this out in a cool interactive format that they can kind of look at their home and look at all the other comps that you put together, so you can put a really compelling piece of information in. So that's how you select the comps. Now, if you're on this page and it's not working, the map isn't working, the listings aren't pulling up, your radius, no matter how many times you try to change the filters, nothing's happening. Again, check to see you're using Chrome. It's almost the #1 reason why you get stuck in this particular spot. So that's using Moxi to go out and geographically find potential comps for you. But let's say you've got a situation where you know you got 4 comps, you know exactly what they are, and you know what they are on the MLS. How would you use those? Well, you would change your search type. So right here at the top above our address, we've got this based on location. All I have to do is go over to this radio button here, change it, and I can enter MLS numbers in. So I could take the 4 MLS numbers that I want, and I could just type them in with a comma. It'll go out and find just those 4. And then my list, instead of those 35, will be just the 4 MLS's numbers that I requested. And you do the exact same thing, hover over the picture, hit the plus sign, and now those are part of your comps as well. So once you've done that, and you've looked at all this information, and you've set your filters correctly, and if you ever mess up and you're like, man, I just want to go back to what the computer had for me, you can just come down here to the bottom of the filters button and hit reset filters. Just go do it to the subject property values and hit apply, and it redraws all that information for you, and it gives you everything you need based on what we already chose, okay? You can see here, we're back up to that 35 listings. So once you're at this spot, you're going to scroll down to the bottom of this page, and I bet you can all guess what we're going to pick next. Huh? Yeah, continue. Okay, so now we're on continue. Now we're on the 3rd page of our car wash menu. So we have 3 actives, we've got 1 pending, we've got 3 solds. Our subject property is highlighted around at the top of the box. There's a big star next to it, so you don't get confused on that. And you can start to see how the computer is doing the math for you, okay? Now the #1 rule here is, this is a computer. It doesn't know nuance. It doesn't know that it has a brand new kitchen. They put in marble floors and granite countertops, and all of the door handles are now made out of COVID-resistant gold or whatever. I mean, all of those little upgrades that you would factor in with making a price, it's just taking the price that the listings have sold for, or that they're listed for on the MLS, and it's doing straight math. It's taking square footage, lot size, price, it's saying, here we go. But the reason why that's important is that it's starting to build your narrative. So if you have somebody that is a very relationship-oriented person and they want the listing presentation to be way more emotional and touchy-feely, and we want to find the right family for this home and all that kind of stuff, you can have those conversations about the architecture and the beauty and the neighborhood and the schools and all that kind of stuff. But if you're also listing to somebody who's like, I want to know how you could arrive at this potential asking price, this is the data that you're going to use to support that. So as you're looking at this and you're seeing that we've got 234, 225, 202, 181, 188, you're starting to be able to build this narrative. Now, by default, when you have these listings and it's putting them in this order, it's saying we're going from price high to low. So I don't know about you, but if you've been on the other side of the table during a listing presentation, and if someone were to come up and you were thinking, I think I'm going to get around 400 for this house, and you're going to come in and the first comp you show them is at 429, what's the first thing they're thinking? Awesome, we're going to get 429, right? And so make sure that you understand that, because this right here is something that you can really get yourself in trouble with, especially if you end with a 392, right? And then now they're confused, right? Because the minute you start talking about price, they're going to go someplace else in their head, right? The other thing is on this page, I plead with you, please, 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 please go on Zillow and look at what the Zestimate is for this property, because I promise you that's what your sellers did. No matter how bad it is, no matter, they might not understand that Zillow in Utah is a non-disclosure state. Zillow could be way off, could be way high, could be way low. You need to know the Zillow's estimate number for this property before you walk into the house. And I'll tell you why, because that's the number that's in their head, okay? So just keep that in mind. From here, you can change the order of these things. Like this is just high to low. What I would do in this scenario is I would change this to a custom sort order. The reason I change it to a custom sort order is this allows you to put the listings in a situation that gives you the ability to change the order, so you can tell the story that you want to tell, right? So instead of starting with this one that's pending at 429, maybe we go down here to this one that's active at 419, and all I'm going to do is drag that one to the top. See how I did that? I just grabbed the little arrows on the side. I took 419 to the top. So now we're out of the gate. We're sort of matching an expectation with these folks to let them know what's happening. If you'd rather just talk about the story that says, let's talk about what's recently sold in your neighborhood, then you change the sort order from sold to active, and here you go. So now you're going to talk about the first 3 solds, and then you're going to go into what's pending, and then you're going to go into what's active. It all depends on how you tell your story, right, when you get to this listing. So here we go at the bottom, listing summary. It kind of tells us what our averages are in pricing. The dollars per square foot kind of lays that all out for you, so you can go from this point in time. There's cool things you can do in here about adding adjustments. You can change the remarks on any one of these particular listings. Like for example, I can go in here and I can edit the remarks on this listing detail, and you can delete these remarks and say, I chose this because, of course I can spell, because I'm a pro. Don't question me. Or however you would say that, right? So at this point in time, you can change all that. You can put in your own remarks. You can add the remarks back. You can also do things like keep those remarks in there and just add your remarks on the top. But you can adjust all of those stuff that are in there. If you figure out, you know what, I really don't want this last one for $3.99. It's not going to fit the way I'm going to tell the story. Just go over here to the right hand side of that red X and just delete that listing. So I removed that listing from my presentation, and now I went from 7 listings to 6. Okay, super simple. If you watch the advanced Moxi class, we go into how to do adjustments and all other kinds of things on this page. But for your first couple, just go ahead and start here. So once we've got this page looking the way we want, it's time to go to our estimate, which means I'm going to come over here to the continue button. I'm going to hit continue. And now I'm on the 4th phase of my car wash menu. So what it's telling me right here on estimating pricing is that Moxi's saying, based on the average sold properties that you've chosen as comps, the average is 406. So based on square footage, it's $208 a square foot. The average is 2,000 square feet. So based on the square footage of the subject property, we recommend going on 419,559. Now, here's where you can kind of say, all right, Moxi, looks like you know what you're doing. Because if you remember, our agent John Bach, who's listing this has this listed for what? 419. So if you do your work on the front, Moxi's going to go ahead and support what it is that you think you should probably list this pricing for. However, in this estimated pricing box right here, I strongly recommend that the first thing that you do is to create a range. It's really kind of it might be a little troublesome to go into someone and say, yep, 415, that's what we're going to get. You don't really know. So you might say, you know what, we might go probably like 410 on the low end, and we might even get up to 420 because we got some competitive bidding situations in here that I think we might do that. You can also adjust based on a percentage of what Moxi thinks. So you can go, give it 3% more or 3% down on the range. You could do that up here, but always create a range, right? You don't want to just go in there with a single price. You hit apply, and then this is where you're going to go to work. Because once you show them that range, again, their mind is going someplace else. So it's your job in here on the remarks to explain why you picked that range, okay? So when you leave and they're looking at this without you, you'll have all your bullet points in a row. You could say, based on the year it was built, based on the renovations of the home, based on all these other pieces, this is why I want to price it in this particular range. That's your job on this page, is to go ahead and put the remarks. Now, if you're somebody who's saying, I like to tell them the range and then I'm going to verbally explain that during the presentation, that's great too. But remember to make sure that they're going to have a link to this presentation after you leave. So try to put this together so that you can explain that to them there. So once we have it there, we're going to go ahead and hit continue. If you want to know about this tab here, this estimated net proceeds, watch the advanced Moxi training class. I'm just going to point out that it's here. Most agents don't ever want to touch this. This is where you send them to your loan agent, someone that you work with. But if you're the kind of agent that want to get knee to knee and find out how much debt they have and mortgage payoffs and all that kind of stuff, you have an entire financial worksheet right here that you can play with. Watch the advanced training class. You want to go into more detail there. So I'm going to hit continue, and now we're in the home stretch. This is where we have a presentation. So remember at the beginning when we put in our new photo, that's where that's going to show up. Remember when we talked about who we're doing this presentation for? That's where that's going to show up, okay? Remember when we chose this beautiful all-white kitchen for our hero graphic? That's where that shows up. So on your cover page, right, your sort of launch page for this presentation, this is where that, in the subject property, when we set all those things up before we started our presentation, this is where all those things come together. So let's look at the pages that we can have here, and then let's look at how we can edit those pages and remove them. As I said at the beginning, we put in every possible page that you can do as a seller presentation. So for example, cover page is there. Here's your property summary. This is the MLS summary of that particular thing. It brings in all the information from around. And remember at the beginning when I said make a connection personally with that house? This is where those remarks are going to show up. So as an introduction to how you're going to price their home, this is where it's a great spot to say, hey, I've been selling a home around the corner. I've been in this area for a long time. We understand the Liberty Park area and the kinds of markets that are happening here. And this is where you can go ahead and make those changes. Down here on the listing location map, it just takes the geographic spots of all the ones that you've picked, and it has them all there. And what you'll notice is all of these are what we call hot links, meaning you can open up your first comp and you can actually go through the pictures with your client. You can say, let's take a look at their living room. Let's take a look at their backyard, right? And you're actually scrolling side to side.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I can't believe it. And if you say, I want to see those pictures bigger, you just click on one of the photos and it takes you right into a big photo. So you have your photo spreads back and forth. I hit my back arrow here. I can also do the same thing by arrowing through the comps. And this is where your practice really has to come in. So, Will always talks about master your tools. This is where, it's really good that you can click in these spots and you know what's going to happen when you click there, right? Because the worst thing is that you're giving one of these presentations, you're on your laptop and you click something that you didn't expect to have happen. And then you're like, oh, sorry, let me find my spot again, right? So this is where you can go in there and arrow around, find out what's going on. But this is all live. This is all coming straight from the MLS. So we go ahead and do that. The listing overview page. So this breaks down all the comps in a nice little format for you that lets you go ahead and sort these however you want. They're going to show up in the order that you set on this listing page here on number 3 of our car wash menu. Your side-by-side comparison. I think flat out, and Jamie, chime in here, this might be the most workable page in this entire platform because it takes their property right here and it puts all of the details, right, that you've got on there. And it lets you literally say, let's take a look at you versus our number 6 comp, right? And you can literally just go back and forth and look at all the data. Now, some of you might sit there and go, I'm never going to cover all those rows. Pre-adjusted price, tax amount, whatever. I'm never going to do that. I don't want to go through all that information. All you got to do is come over here on the page menu. See our magic pencil? Our magic pencil has appeared again. And we're going to click that magic pencil. and it's going to say, here's everything in the listing section that you can choose or not choose. So we're going to keep all this. Lot size, that's fine. Days on market, we're going to take that out. I'm going to jump down to the pricing section. I'm not going to do pre-adjustment price. I'm not going to do any of these. I'm just going to say what was sold, not percentage of list price. You know, you can choose any of this type of functions that you want. You know, new construction, building style, garage, all this kind of stuff. You know, we don't care about pool. It's not waterfront. I don't care about views. You can kind of go through, and then you do this with each one of these sections. You can check and uncheck any of these pieces that are coming in. And then all you got to do is go up here and hit the X button, and it redraws the entire grid for you, right? So now all the things that we unchecked went away, and now we're just focusing on the items that we're going to use to help these people understand how good this is and how we're pricing their property. We come down here to status comparisons. Here's what the actives look like. Here's what the pendings look like. Here's what the solds look like. And it just lays it out for you. And just like this has all the bed, bath, dollar per lot acre, that's one of those things where it's kind of confusing. Like, why is my lot worth $3.7 million? Well, all it's doing is taking the square footage, the dollar per square foot price of the property and applying that to the lot. You say, well, I don't want them to get confused on that. So I come over here to my pencil, I hit edit, and I say, you know what? I don't want to show the dollar per lot size. So I slide that button over there. I hit the X button, and then this dollar per lot acre disappears. I don't have that column anymore, right? So I don't have to deal with that particular sense of whatever. Listing averages. So this is where it gets into the charts and graphs. If you're a charts and graphs kind of person, this is awesome because it kind of lays all this stuff out for you. But what is this slide actually saying? All it's saying is of everything that we chose for the comps, it's a 3.5 beds, 2 baths, a 1,900 square feet. This is what we're doing. And again, here's that lot acre. So I'm going to say, I don't want the lot acre on there. So I'm just going to take out the lot acre, dollar per lot square foot, hit the X button. It goes away, right? I don't have to worry about that particular option on that slide anymore. Or you could say, Joe, that's great, but that's a boring slide. I don't think that graph means much. I don't think it's very compelling. I don't want it. Great. Come over here to the X and just take it out of your presentation. So now we're down to 12 slides instead of 13. Remember at the beginning I told you you're going to build this and you're going to go through each one of these slides and you're going to say, what would I say on this particular slide? And if it doesn't match the story you want to tell, just get rid of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the X button here, right? Because I don't care about that, you know. And then this is price and size. Oh, surprisingly enough, you know, the larger the home, typically the higher the price. This graph actually is very confusing because we have a huge square footage over here that's actually the lowest price comp, right? So you say, I don't want that, right? I'll just pull that one out as well. So now I'm down to 10 pages in my presentation, and now I'm getting into some of this other information that's out there. So this particular page is pulled from Zestimate. Remember when we said, no, there's Zestimate before you walk in? Here's why you want to know that. This page typically shows how bad Zillow is in these neighborhoods. This one's actually not too bad. This one right here, was over by 2,000. This one was over by $978. Jamie and I have seen ones that are $20,000 off, $30,000 off. And I'm not talking about Park City listings. I'm talking about Wasatch Front listings where they literally thought the home was worth $30,000 more than it should be or $20,000 less than it should be. So if you want to use this, and this slide, again, supports the narrative you're telling, leave the slide in there. I've had agents that say, I will never have the word Zestimate or Zillow, anything I do, then just pull this page off. So now you're saying, okay, I've got this down. I've got 9 pages on my presentation. Now I'm in my pricing analysis page. Here's why the range is important. Here's why the agent remarks are important. It supports all these pricing stats. And again, if you don't want any of this information in there, click your pencil and change the fields that it's showing, okay? We'll leave them up because it tells a good story for us here. And then down here, if you go ahead and do those net proceeds, this is the net proceeds slide. If you don't do the net proceeds, remove the page. So now we're looking at a presentation that started with 13 potential slides, and now we're down to 8, okay? So if this is the way that it actually works out well, and here's my profile, here's all my information, right? These are all hot links, so they can click on them and call you and email you, do everything there. So you have all this stuff that's in there, and you might say, you know what? I don't know these people really well. You know, they're a referral. I think I should talk a little bit about my experience first. I'm going to grab this agent profile page. I'm just going to slide it up to the top. So now before I get even into the cover page of the property, I'm going to say, let me just tell you a little bit about me. and you have this page as now the first part of your presentation. You can reorder these any way you want by simply dragging and dropping, okay? And now you have it the way you want it so you can practice. The first thing you're going to say is, I want to save this as my template. I don't want to do this all over again. I don't want to keep unchecking the price per dollar price per lot. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to save that. This is my first round, my Joe practice template. So you come down here to the bottom, you click Save as Template, and you name it. So this is the Joe practice, right? Now the next time you create a new presentation, instead of picking the brokerage default, you're going to pick your default, right? Because that's the way you're going to do things. So we're going to hit Save. And now we've got a template that is designed around an 8-page delivery. All of those little options on the grids and the property details, all that, those are all saved. All my preferences are now saved. So every time I build a new presentation, I just pick my template and I'm good to go. So now the next thing happens, the phone rings. Oh my gosh, Dawn, here's a person needs to see 3 homes. Can you meet me in 20 minutes? And Dawn's like, yeah, I'll get off the beach. Let me go, I'll gather my stuff and I'll meet you where we're gonna meet. So we do that and we close our laptop lid and we run away. Well, I wasn't finished. So what happens? What happens is when you log back into Moxi, this is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna look like Present. You're gonna go back to our dashboard and everything you've just done is now saved. So here is that presentation. So the last thing we're gonna talk about today is, Joe, how do I edit the presentation? How do I get back to the car wash menu? Because every time I click on the picture of my presentation I just built, it just takes me to the presentation. I can't edit it. Well, if you're in the dashboard and you click on the picture, it's going to launch the presentation. So this is what it's going to look like when you get there. So I'm scrolling down. Remember, we had our first page talks about me. Scrolling down, here's my cover page. And I could just keep scrolling and it just keeps adding a new page and all the things that we have talked about before. So just like we did on our page menu, all these links are hot. I can click any one of these, open them up. Let's go through this neighborhood, why I picked this particular property. Let's talk about square footage and all those other things that we need to do. All of these are live within your presentation. You can also, when you're scrolling down, you see this bottom right-hand corner right here? This is your table of contents menu. So if you don't want to scroll, you can just go up arrow, down arrow, and it loads whatever page you're on. Or you click this one with the 3 lines in the menu, in the middle. We call that the hamburger menu. And then you can just jump to whatever you want to jump to, right? It makes it really, really, really simple for you to do that. The other thing you should know about this presentation is that once this link is up, if we go right here, I can copy and paste that link in a text. I can send that over an email. I can put that wherever I want. I can put it in the e-card if I want to do a nice custom e-card for this potential listing, because it's just a link, and that link is to your presentation only, okay? That's what's cool about that. So back to the dashboard. I want to edit and finish my presentation. Here's our magic pencil. It's right there at the top. Just remember, that's where you're going to click, and that's going to take you right back to that menu that we were just so comfortable with, and right back into the beginning of our car wash menu. You can jump to any one of these sections. So for example, if you were working on your page order, you just want to go right back to your page order, click on that word that says pages, and now you're right here at the end, and you can go ahead and edit any one of these things, okay? You are going to mess up like a lot the first couple times you do this. And you're going to say, where the frick was that button? And how did I remove that, that property thing? How do I add my custom remark? You're going to do that. So great. That means that you're using it. So when you get to that spot, go ahead and email me, email Jamie. All that stuff will be awesome, and we'll take care of it. And when you finally have this ready to go, you come up here to send, click the send button. You put in the email address of your clients. I always like to include a little PDF because it kind of freezes the presentation like in a moment in time. So if they ever wanted to download it or print it out, they can do that. Just put in their email addresses. You put in the subject line, put in a little message. You can choose to send a copy to yourself, so you can always archive in your inbox if you want to on how to do that. And then you send the link, and Moxi sends them this beautiful email. It's all formatted with the branding and everything else, and they open it up, and away you go. It's very, very slick to do it that way. There is the ability to print the presentation. Go ahead and look at the advanced class if you want to see all the print options. But this is your basics. This is how you can just, this is your hammer and chisel, and I'm going to go start whacking on this, and I'm going to try to create something good to go. But that is Moxi 101. So we're going to go ahead and stop right there. And Jamie, do you have any questions or anything else that scrolled up we didn't cover?
Not really. Let's stop recording here for a minute and let us know if you guys have questions.
We'll do it. So let me get out of the share, and then we'll get out of the recording.